What we believe and know to be true sets the foundation of our reality. Hi, I'm Dan. I talk about manifesting, conscious creation, intentional living. I'm so glad you're here. And today I want to focus on the topic of belief systems, knowing, faith, certainty. You've heard all these terms before and how they create our reality, how they're important and critical to us living in our 3D reality, and how we can implement it into being able to manifest what we want. Okay, so you've probably heard of belief is what we believe to be true. Knowing is a higher level of certainty from belief, and faith is an even higher level of certainty. Okay, at the end of the day, belief, knowing, faith, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's just semantics. People like to overcomplicate things, and I like to simplify it. Okay, so you don't need to worry about it. When I'm using belief, know, faith, I'm using it interchangeably because at the end of the day, if you believe something to be true, it either is true or it isn't true in your mind and how you perceive things. So when we are believing something to be true in our minds, we also know it to be true. We are certain because that's what certainty means. We are certain, right? For example, if I am certain that this chair is going to hold up my weight, I believe this chair is going to hold up my weight. I know that if I sit down on this chair, I'm not going to fall through and fall to the floor. And I sit down with that knowing and certainty that this chair is going to hold me up. Okay? So we need to apply this in manifesting as well, because if we are creating our reality, again, we have adopted a particular identity when we are moving through life. And that our foundation, this 3D reality that we see in front of us, is built upon that identity, that state of being and who we are living as, what we believe to be true. There are a lot of coaches and teachers that talk about the belief trees and how you have to go deep into your beliefs, deep into your subconscious beliefs and change them. Yes, they can be helpful, but there is an easier way, is that a lot of times you're trying to unwind and untangle a lot of deep-rooted beliefs, and I've done that. I've done all that work before in the past, and I can tell you, it is helpful. It does make you feel better. However, there is an easier way that I found, is simply to no longer identify with those beliefs. You don't need to know where they came from. You don't need to know. You don't have to do a ton of shadow work. You can if you want, right? Some people, that's the route that they need to take to be able to do that. But there is an easier way. And the way that I like to introduce to you is simply to no longer believe in that, is identifying that's not really my beliefs. Those are just put on to me from parents, from society, from school. It doesn't matter. All those things, all those beliefs, all those, whatever you know to be certain, all those things that create the reality that we're currently living in, that doesn't have the manifestation that you want, all those things is simply not me. I don't identify with that. You simply have to choose not to identify with that, because I did talk about awareness of the ego. That's just your ego telling you that is you, that is you, that is you. And it really is not you. You need to understand that you are not that thing that believes. You are not the identity that believes in all those things. So what you know to be certain to be true, what you believe to be certain to be true, you can switch that in an instant. Because if you are embodying an identity that has the thing you wish to manifest, that's living your dream life already, because it already exists. Remember, creation is already finished. You are simply selecting that state that you wish to live as if it's already been done. Because that version of you is going to have an entirely different set of beliefs, an entirely different set of knowing, an entirely different set of what they are certain to be true, right? So once you have adopted that, you're going to start to see your 3D reality completely shift and change. Now, how do we actually do this? It's through persistence. Now, we've talked about persist. What does that actually mean? To me, persisting really means continually living as if you already have what it is that you want to manifest, living as that life that you wish to live. Keep persisting in that, because the more you persist in that, the more you're going to build that belief, that knowing, that certainty, that faith is going to continue to grow. That you have certainty and faith that is who you are being. That is the identity that you are now living as. That is who you truly are. Now, at the end of the day, yes, you are awareness. You can always choose in any moment in time to shift your identity someplace else. Yes, you can always do that. But we want to shift our identity to an identity that's already living as who we are, or living as who we want to be living as, because that is ultimately what manifesting is all about, is us shifting identity into something that we want to experience in life, right? So when we are able to persist, when the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, how we act, how we perceive things, all those things, when we are able to persist in that identity, persist in the belief systems, persist, act as if, when we are able to live as that version of us, it's all up in our minds, in our heads, not even our minds, because our minds, again, is ego, right? We are aware that we can adopt and think the way that we wish to think and feel, right? All those things we can choose. And if we choose an identity that already has that thing that we're trying to manifest, then we keep persisting in that. And over time, it's going to build that belief, that knowing, that certainty over and over and over again until all that programming from the past that we've gotten from other people that lacks our manifestation, that's all going to simply disappear. It's just simply not, it's not that it's going to no longer exist, because all reality, all versions exist, but it's no longer going to be who we are living as. And your 3D reality is going to completely shift and change around that. It's going to conform. Remember, our reality is built upon the foundation of our identity. Our identity is what actually matters. And our identity has a certain set of belief systems in place. And by growing our certainty and our faith and our knowing and our beliefs in that identity, right? We do that through persistence, okay? So I hope this helps. I'm going to leave it there for today. I just want to make it clear that belief, knowing, faith, being certain about things to be true or not true, those things are really, it's just semantics. You can use whatever words, different coaches will use it in different ways. But this is how I kind of interpret it and how it makes sense for me. So I hope this helps. But the key point here is continue to persist, because that is going to build your belief and your knowing and your faith in that identity. That identity that already has what you want to manifest, that is already living the life that you wish to live. All right? Hope it helps.